Hey champion, this is Adya-Shere with UnMutingMe coaching. Are you always getting dumped, or are you always the one that's leaving the relationship? I want you to stop sabotaging your relationships today and learn how to live your best life and be happy. Let me show you how. That person is golden because that's how they portray themselves to be many times. So we're going to talk about that, and I want all the champions knowledge and things that I have gone through that has helped me and has also helped others, and I want to make sure that we are also. Hey champion, this is Adya-Shere with UnMutingMe coaching. I'm back, and I want to talk about one topic, and that is understanding why you are sabotaging your relationships. The reason why we want to talk about this today is because, of course, we have all had bad relationships, but some of them have actually been good. But why are you doing that? Why are you the cause of the relationship ending? We want to talk about that because we need to understand specifically the root cause of why you are sabotaging the relationship that's causing you to be unhappy. Now, of course, I'm not going to disregard that some people are jerks, but in this conversation today, we are the ones that are like that. We are the ones that are ending the relationship. So we need to understand why we're doing this. Why are we sabotaging a relationship? The main thing is understanding one particular word. We are the F word. And I'm not talking about that F word, champion. We're just fearful. We are just fearful, meaning that we are so scared that this will happen again in our life that we sabotage the relationship. And this can be consciously done and also unconsciously done. And this could be when we are fearful. These are some things that could possibly happen. We can start to control and manipulate. We can be passive aggressive. We can lose sight of basic communication, which causes the other person to leave. Many things that come to play. And the main reason is that we are fearful. Fear is the ultimate reason of why we sabotage relationships, and ultimately leads us to being dismissed in a relationship, or we dismiss someone else in a relationship. And that's what we need to understand, because if we are fearful, we cannot be happy in a relationship because we already have one foot out of the door, or we can do something that causes the other person to leave the relationship because of our actions and our behavior. And most of the time when we do this, we become very reactionary. We don't think, and we start to do things that are very detrimental for the relationship, which causes the other person to leave the relationship, or the relationship can go the other way, meaning that it can go very well and we can be scared and we eventually leave. That's just how it is. I want to talk to you about that because this is what has come to me, and I want to address it from a coach's standpoint on why we sabotage relationships. And these relationships can either be good or bad. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to stop doing that to yourself and stop doing it to other people, because if you keep doing this, you will never be happy. All right, so some tips I'm going to give you today is how to stop sabotaging those relationships. Tip number one is the contribution of your past. How much of your past is contributing to your relationships currently? We need to think about that, because that's from old programming. Things that happen in your past could definitely affect our now, our present moment, and also ultimately our future. But if we have had past relationships that have been so sour, so detrimental, things that have hurt us so bad to where we can't even have a relationship with the person that we're in a relationship right now, it's going to be very hard for that person to stay or for us to stay. So you need to think about, at this time, I want you to think for maybe 10 seconds. Think about how much your past relationship has contributed to your relationships. And the second one is forgiveness. In order to stop sabotaging the relationships, your relationships particularly, is learning how to forgive your past. There was a quote that is is very, very, very powerful is that there is no love without forgiveness, and there is no forgiveness without love. You need to understand specifically, unless you forgive your past, you cannot move on in your now, which ultimately can affect your future. So you need to be able to go back and do that healing. You got to do that healing, because unless you do that healing, it's going to be so hard for you. So if someone has done you so bad in the past to where you can't enjoy the relationship that you're in, you're going to sabotage the relationship, even unconsciously, because sometimes we could be sabotaging a relationship that we are completely unaware that we're doing it, is because we haven't gone back into the past to heal that past. And that means that even if that person has done you wrong, they have left you, they've divorced you, they've cheated on you, they've done everything to you, you have to learn how to forgive that. You may not forget it, but in order for you to heal from your past, you have to forgive it for you to move on, champion. So the scary part about that is that sometimes when we sabotage our relationships, we're not even aware that we're doing it, because we are unconsciously doing it because we're still holding on to that past. And I want you, champion, to go back and do that healing and accept it for what it is, accept what happened, so then you can move on in your relationship currently, so you can stop doing this, so you can be happy. The main thing is for you to be happy, because if we don't do this work, we're gonna go in this cycle. And self-sabotaging itself alone is a cycle. So that's one thing that we need to do. Sometimes it's very hard to own up to that, because we don't want to admit to that we are still holding on to our past. If we're still holding on to our past, we're going to carry that in the relationships that we have. That's why things that happen when we sabotage, like I said, we can start to control, manipulate, we can be reserved, we can withhold. Sometimes we can even cheat. We can even do things like that, because we are just not we're not ready, because we haven't yet healed from the past. And that comes from fear. So we do all of these things because we are scared, because we are afraid, because we want to reserve ourselves, because we want to avoid this happening to us again. So those are some things I want to make sure you understand. Is tip number one. Tip number one is how much of your past relationship are contributing to your present relationships. And think about those relationships that didn't go so well, and think about what did I do to contribute to that relationship. And then number two is forgiveness of your past, going back to do that healing work, going back to make sure that you are focusing on how you're going to heal from this, so you can move on with your life. And then tip number three, champion. Tip number three is know what you want. This means sharing what you need. When you know what you want, you can share this information. That's why when you're in a relationship, after you've done the two, knowing the contribution to your past and forgiving, and with the acceptance of it, you can get rid of the gray area then. Then you can be very black and white and knowing what you need. And that means, champion, as in, if the relationship that I'm currently in, if there's a conflict, how do I want my spouse or my partner to communicate with me? Or if I do something, how am I going to communicate with him or her? Remember, in order for you to know what you want, you have to be able to communicate this with yourself. So that means that you need to sit down and reflect on, what do I want in a relationship? And be very honest, because if those things aren't being met, you don't have to stay in that relationship. That's not self-sabotage. That's you knowing what you want, knowing what you need in a long, healthy relationship. So, champion, one thing that you have to do is learn how to create this consciously, meaning that you need to sit by yourself and reflect on what you need in a relationship. That's what's going to help you. At the end of the day, how you want your relationship to go is up to you. So think about those three things: is understanding the contribution of your past, learning how to forgive and accept, and knowing what you want in a relationship. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to accept anything. You have to be able to consciously do this by yourself, and to be able to convey this with the person that you're in a relationship in. So I'm hoping these tips will help you how to stop self-sabotaging a relationship, because truly this has helped me. I'm sure it's going to help you. And if you stop sabotaging relationships that you have, then you can start to live a better life. You can be more happy, and you can know what you want in a relationship. Because if you're unsure of what you want, you would be very, very prone to getting into any type of relationship, whether these relationships are abusive relationships or they can be very prosperous relationships. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This is Adya-Shere with UnMutingMe Coaching. I want you to take care of yourself and live your best life.